Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. I'm a summer camp director, writer, and speaker, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents over the past 3 decades. My husband, Steve, and I are raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 15 to 25. So my interest in raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults is personal as well as professional. In episode 71, I'm talking with Jenifer Joy Madden. We spoke back in episode 30 about her book, How to Be a Durable Human. This time, we're talking about some more recent findings that this health educator and writer has found about the brain and her concept of the Bushy broccoli brain. Enjoy this episode. Well, I'm really excited to have Jenifer Joy Madden of The Durable Human back on the podcast again today. Welcome, Jenifer.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Why don't you refresh listeners just a little bit about your background and what you're really excited about right now?
Sure. Well, I am a health journalist, so I'm always interested in health development, and I'm really excited about all I've been learning about the brain lately. It used to be we didn't have much research on childhood and all sorts of inputs and what that does to the brain and how to have really healthy brains, and now there's just been some beautiful research that's come out, and so I've developed a few theories around that to help people really understand how to how to bring out the best in their kids.
Well, on our last episode, and I'll put a link to it with these show notes, we talked about your book, The Durable Human, and it was really a popular episode. It just keeps getting listened to because I think just that concept of something that we all want for both ourselves and our children is just to be durable. So it sounds like your more recent research is really building upon your durability theory. So let's talk about this really fun concept that really gives a good visual for when we think about our kids. It's this thing you call the Bushy broccoli brain. So why don't you explain what you mean when you talk about that?
Sure, I will. And I just wanted to give a little quick definition for durable. That means to be effective and strong for as long as possible. And I like to think in body, mind, and spirits to be durable. So that's what all of our goals should be, is to be our best for as long as possible. And what is exciting is that some of the research is kind of bearing that out and even pointing the way for us to be more durable. And interestingly enough, what you do for a living, which is run camps and bring people to camps, is so important for kids' development and their brains. So what we're seeing is that when kids have what I call a 3D, 360-degree experience as a child, their brains are pretty much fully developed. What they'll do is that creates, when you're in a rich sensory environment such as the outdoors, it actually stimulates a lot of interconnections in the brain. And then but the research is showing that if a kid is limited in their activity and they do a lot of just one thing, for instance, they sit in their online playing a game for a long period of time, it's actually crowding out some other things that they need to do during the day. And the research is showing that because the brain develops over time, there are actually little windows of opportunity all the way along. So the first year or two is about kind of language development and understanding and actually reading faces, which is an unsung skill that we all need to survive, actually. Not only in life, but when we grow up and we're in business, we actually have to be astute about watching people's nuances of their faces. So those things happen early in life. The thing is, if a child is not studying, for instance, faces very much during that period, they miss the window. I mean, the research, the brain scans are really showing this. And so it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we have to be really aware of how sensitive the kids' brains are and the developmental line of what they're doing. And so I actually was privy to some research that's developing overseas, such as in France, Romania. Now it's come to the United States too, which looks at very, very young children, and their brains are not properly, if they spend many hours in front of a screen, they can miss these milestones of verbal development, and they're delayed, and they have very strange symptoms.
Hmm.
And there's this term for that. It's called virtual autism. I write about it on the Durable Human site. But not to dwell on the negative. What we want to look at is, as parents, trying to develop our kids' brains very fully. So, to tell you the truth, personal story. My dear cousin was undergoing treatment for cancer, and I was going to the grocery store for her. And she was supposed to eat broccoli and broccolini. There were two options, broccoli and broccolini. Now, if you've seen broccoli and broccolini, broccoli is big and bushy, kind of actually looks like a brain. And then the broccolini is stalks. It's pretty stalky. It has the top part resembles the bushy broccoli, but it really is much more truncated. And my gosh, the neuroscience is saying that kids can miss developmental milestones, and their brain actually is not going to be as interconnected as it would have been if they had been doing other things, doing a wide variety of things. Uh, and so I developed this metaphor, I guess, which is we as parents want to fully develop our child's brain by giving them a full sensory upbringing and not letting them, not having them do too much of one thing, because it just, and do other stuff. We only have 24 hours. And so then I contrast the broccoli brains with the broccolini brain. Kid's very nice, but may have missed some steps along the way. We don't want that. And now we know that we can get carried, a child can get carried away, and that we have to help them not get carried away with using, for instance, being on screens too long.
Yeah, when you were talking, it reminded me a lot. I know a long time ago, they did those studies in a Romanian orphanage about how much kids need, loving touch, talking to them, that kind of thing, and how they become basically disabled, or they don't even live without like the love of a caring adult. And I just was thinking about how there's all these things, that kind of basic needs that our kids have to get this really bushy broccoli brain. And a big part of it may be just that more social connection. I mean, that's what I'm always thinking about at camp and writing about, is that talking face to face with your parents, looking in their eyes, all that great stuff. I think of that as just really making a bushier brain. Is that kind of true, that it's that interaction piece?
You are so astute, because believe it or not, I had a wonderful opportunity to take a trip up to Seattle, Washington in America, and see the first internet addiction treatment center in the US. And I saw they were all young men there at the time, and they were trying to break their addictions to various, for instance, video games. And I loved being able to talk to the co-director. And I said, while I was there, I said, how can a parent avoid having their child end up here? And she said, there's one word, it's attachment. What you're just describing is attachment, and it hasn't gotten enough attention at all. But attachment is a special neurophysiological thing. It's a brain body thing that sets up when you look in a baby's eyes and they look in yours, and there's a gaze going on, and it creates almost like a thing, like a physiological effect. And that happens from babyhood onward. And it's really important, because if that gets blocked, then the same thing happens to the Romanian babies. They've had no face-to-face contact with their caregivers, their loved ones, their parents. And parents have to be super aware of how delicate their child's brains are, and how they must have that attachment at the beginning of life, and putting a phone here in front of your face blocks it. And actually that attachment, since a child's brain takes 25 years to fully develop, even more, human beings that are young need to have attachment and have continuous eye contact with others and have others listen to them. And so a parent actually has to keep attachment in mind all the way through growing up years. And the second A, so I have this course for new parents that I'm launching, and I only have 4 letters, A, B, C, and D, that people have to learn, but attachment is the first A, and the second A is attention. And so you really can't have good attachment without attention to your child. So parents have more to do these days. They have a little bit more on their plate, which is, it used to be that attachment was just natural, it just would happen and nobody even noticed it. But now it's like we have to be like, wait a minute, be aware. So the third A is awareness, is being aware of what you're doing, basically, because it's second nature for us to pick up our phone and check it and be on there for periods of time. And it's like, no, that has to be put off until another time, because there's a crucial need that our babies and young children have, which is for us to be attached to them.
I saw one of your recent blog posts was about some of the new things that have come out to help us all monitor our tech. And I've noticed, I think it's actually really helpful, like on iPhones, that we get a notice now of how much time we've spent. And even my kids, a few of whom are still teenagers, have mentioned to me noticing that, trying to have less time on there. It makes it almost like a contest. And I like some of those tools, but I'm curious a little bit more about the tech addiction thing. It's interesting because most traditional camps, we are unplugged. It's just part of the whole thing, is coming outdoors, being with your friends, not having your phone. But now there are actually, there's a camp now that is specifically set up as a tech addiction, like recovery camp. And I find it interesting. I mean, it's so popular, I guess. What are they finding to be helpful in treating these kids who are coming with these like severe addictions to their screens or gaming? Do you know what the treatment is or the prognosis?
I do. I know what they're doing up at Restart, and that's why I called the director and I went up there, because I couldn't believe it. I write about being a durable human, what that means to be skilled, to have skills, know how to cook, know how to, sweep the floor and that kind of thing. I call it the triple crown of durability. So skills, genuine relationships with other people. So that's where this attachment comes in. Person to person touch. And the third one is curiosity, that each child is an individual and they shouldn't have their curiosity blocked, because they have to express their individuality. And ultimately, when they become adults, they can have new ideas and differing ideas, because we can't think all the same. We need to think differently from one another to be contributors to this world. A lot of our functions are being taken over by robots and artificial intelligence. So we have to do what we do best as human beings, and that is to be thoughtful. It starts with curiosity and skilled, and to use our senses that we have that they don't, like compassion, intuition, these things that really, again, are not really valued as much as they should, but we have to know those are our special human functions. So I went up to Restart, and lo and behold, there was the chore board. These people have to contribute to the household, and they do. I did a TEDx talk on this, and I said, Hillary told me, Hillary Cash is the director up there, she said, if they got a hall pass as kids, not helping around the house, they don't get one here. And each of them have multiple chores a day. They have then they have other sessions where they share, and they get some treatment for underlying mental health issues. So that's how they break the addiction, is actually doing physical work and having purpose within the community, and with simple stuff like sweeping the floor. And I saw them cooking dinner. Man, it looked delicious. I had to move on, but they're good.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm sure you're familiar. You're reminding me of so many books that I've read, but Julie Lythcott-Haims in How to Raise an Adult. Chores is one of the things that she really, really, it's like a simple thing that many people don't realize that it's so important for all kids of every age to feel like they're contributing. And meanwhile, they're learning the skills. So while they're contributing and being a part, having a purpose in your home, they also are learning really important skills. So that's interesting that that's a tenet, which is also a tenet of camp. Most camps, they're cleaning their cabin, they're sweeping, they're cleaning up the fire pit, cleaning up paper, wiping down the counter in the bathroom. There's definitely that aspect. The other thing that I wanted to make sure we mention is Tina Payne Bryson and Daniel Siegel's work, The Whole Brain Child, No Drama Discipline, and the Yes Brain are all very much about what you're talking about, all the ways that parents can connect to and help grow kids' brain connections. And they have a saying that they say, neurons that fire together wire together. And as you're talking about that bushy brain, I'm thinking that they keep saying that in their books, that you have to use it or you lose it. So when you think about kids growing up in their brains, whether it's language development or that curiosity or those skills and those, automatic things, it's all happened from practice. So you need that 3D experience that you describe for those neurons to fire together and create all that great bushy, really, full brain power. And then what's interesting is I recently heard Tina speak at the Momentous Institute, and she was talking all about attachment as how that's a hugely important thing. So it's so interesting how all this recent brain science is coming together, kind of all leading to some of these same conclusions.
Yep, it's kind of simple, and that's why I'm doing this new parents or restart of parents.
Yes, right.
I call it a confidence kickstart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are super guilty when they start to hear that, oh my gosh, did I accidentally let my kid be so happy using, playing this game or doing this thing? I thought it was good. I thought it was okay. And I say in my course, guilt be gone, guilt be gone. Nobody knew this stuff. Nobody knew these wonderful, fun things were going to have any deleterious or damaging effects. So start there. Please do not feel guilty. But then start to realize how attachment and these other things are, and boundaries, developing boundaries for yourself around your technology. Containment's another use, the C word for that. But so I have sort of jumped off this broccolini brain thing and decided I had this brainstorm to create really cute little animated creatures that have the two different kinds of brains and that they illustrate one thought. So my first one is on the full balanced life. So it isn't really one thought. It's like one day, and it's a split screen, and it shows the broccoli brain per character on the left and the broccolini on the right. But then I have some individual ones, such as 30 seconds just on feeding your baby, and it shows the mom like happily looking at her phone, and the baby's like back here behind the phone, kind of like, I'm here. And then there isn't a light bulb. There was originally in my concept, but it's not there, where the parent, it's a non-gender, non-race, it's a broccoli, it's green, doesn't
right.
Okay. And then it's like, well, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. And so that's all it is. It's just 30 seconds. There's no words to it. It's just to try to spark to be like, oh yeah, I got to remember.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so these videos we'll for sure we'll be able to link to them in the show notes so people can check those out. Yeah, such great reminders. I do appreciate that you're kind of taking away the guilt thing, because I think that is a big part of parenting right now. Unfortunately, people just are always so worried about what they're doing wrong, when really, no one's going to get everything right, but you can make little course corrections along the way. If you're noticing something with yourself or your kids or your family, it's never too late to do a little reset, if you need to get more chores or less screen time, those are all doable things. And so I think that's a message that I know I'm always trying to share with people, because even in my own family, we go through these phases and we're like, okay, we're going to have an unplugged day, or we're going to, but because you need to sometimes reset. And I think that's part of what sounds like your course could help even parents with older kids also.
Yeah, if they could get past the word baby and just think of their own child, they can definitely benefit from it. I wanted to mention really quickly, I talked earlier about virtual autism and the kids suddenly, as 1 and 2 year olds, kind of not looking their parents in the eye and acting autistic like if they've had an overdose of screen exposure. It's amazing. And this is another book, Reset Your Child's Brain by Victoria Dunkley. She shows that with almost any age kid all the way through teenager, if you have a fast basically and remove the child from screens, they will revert over a few weeks back to bring it down. I mean, to bring it way down. I mean, they could start out being very upset that they're having less exposure. But once it's gone for a little while, like at camp, they'll calm down and start to think about other things. It's very, very effective. And especially 1 and 2 year olds, if they're just take the TV and everything out of the house, uh, they revert pretty quickly to normal kids.
Wow. Yeah, I think you might have mentioned it. So it's just a couple weeks without the screens, and these 1 or 2 year olds can regain some of the skills that they've sort of lost.
Yeah, there are probably going to be a percentage. There are going to be a percentage that are truly autistic kids, but the numbers on autism have gone bonkers in the last 20 years. Like 25, 30 years ago, it was like 1 in 5,000. Seriously, it's very few. Now it's gotten up to 1 in 40 are being diagnosed with autism. I know. I have that on my. I got it from the real numbers that are being borne out. However, then you have to think to yourself, could there be some sort of maybe? I mean, the implication is that perhaps some of them have been affected by environmental factors.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could identify some environmental factors and at least try to mitigate them, we could at least see, is this child going to respond? And having them not watch TV or not be on your phone for a while is free, and it's not it's fine. It's healthy for them. So, why not?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just struggle with I've been trying to share with parents the replacement idea, that instead of focusing on what not to do, instead let's think of ways to the things we can do. So going outside for a walk around the neighborhood in the evening, going to the park, reading books together. There's like trying to find fun things, playing cards or other games. There's so many things that you can think of that you can do instead of. And I find that with kids, especially as they get older, if you have a fun thing to do instead of the screen that is so compelling for them, that's an easier way to introduce more time away from the screens in a way that kids are excited about. Part of the reason camp works is we have a lot of fun things going on outside for kids to do. So they don't argue at all about it. But when you're at home, if they're perceiving that there's nothing fun to do, then it's easier for them to just kind of get sucked into their screen. So I think part of it is, even if you're just slowly implementing a few things, and getting outdoors is one really easy way. If you just have something that you do together outside, I think that can be a huge start to help parents. What are, I love, you have so many great resources on your site. And I noticed today, I was looking through it, you have it divided into like parenting, I think nature or autonomy. So you have some really good resources. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? I will put the links, but why don't you just tell a little bit about what you have available, all those great resources that you have, so people know about it.
Sure. I have my website, durablehuman.com. And then you can see how my blog posts are separated into different topics. And there's a search bar. I'd suggest, searching for something you might be interested in. I have the videos that people can see. my TEDx, and I'm developing some products that I'm going to set up a store pretty soon. But I have a little fun little training thing for a child for cell phone, to train them to charge it in the kitchen, and I have a little pamphlet with that's talks about emphasizing sleep. So it's like sleep is the hero. The kids are heroes in the little story because they've charged their phone in the kitchen, so they're charged in the morning. So everybody's charged, the phone and the kid. And so it's like flipping it on its head and being like, sleep, you can't be awesome tomorrow unless you sleep tonight. So it's just giving parents and kids that impetus to like, yeah, rah sleep, that's our number one thing. It's much more important than the technology that can wait. And so I have those. I want to get that going soon. And I have my 2 books, and I definitely would recommend. The second one is How to Be a Durable Human, and every chapter has some advice for parents to help their kids be durable in all ways: their ears, their eyes, their hearts. There's a bunch of lists in there that are easy to use.
Yeah, it's all just really terrific and such a great reminder for all of us. So I sure appreciate all this research that you're doing. And I'm really interested to keep following all these fun things you're coming up with. I love the positive focus of the sleep one. I think, again, so much better to go with the positive of what you want to be doing instead. And I think you talked about, I just re-listened to our last episode, and you talked about just thinking about your day and where you spend your time. And if you put on there first how much sleep you need, and then other things that are kind of the must happens, and then all of a sudden you realize, wow, if I'm really doing all these things well to be a durable human, there's really only this much time left, a little bit of time that is sort of like discretionary. And do I want to spend that all on my screen? Probably not. So it's really just making those good choices to get your body and your brain in the right direction.
Well, let me, one more thing you should put in the notes is the American Academy of Pediatrics Media Time Calculator. It's like you ordered it up. It's like you just conjured it. They've already made what you want. So it's a platform where you put your kid's name. First of all, it's not online. It doesn't go out no one can access it, but you can get it on the internet, and you put in your child's name and age. It's a 24-hour planner, and it comes pre-populated. So if you put it as a 6-year-old, they need 11.5 hours of sleep. It's pre-populated in the 24-hour planner. And you quickly see with, getting dressed, brushing teeth, eating, going to school, that the media time, the free time for media just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And you can sit there with your child and they can see, oh yeah, I do go to school 5 hours. It just did take 5 hours out of my media time. And then they see at the end of the day, they have maybe half an hour. It's a beautiful, beautiful tool, and I love it. So that combined with screen time, which is using your iPhone to oversee your children and help them balance and monitor their data and their online usage. I'm very hopeful. I'm really hopeful, that these tools are being designed.
Yeah, sure. Well, this has been so much fun. Is there anything else that you want to share with my listeners about you or your work, or any other advice that you'd like to end off with, or that we've left out?
Let's see. I think it's just I'll just share a thought from Stephen Covey from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that he writes about machines. When they're efficient, they are really fast. They're so fast. How many copies can come out of the printer, and that kind of thing. That's how they're efficient. But with people, to be efficient is actually to slow down, to slow way down, and to look and to listen. And I think we have to value efficiency with each other, and to give each other the time and attention that we need as everyone, but especially as parent to child. So I would just encourage that. And I refer to Stephen Covey in my confidence kickstart. So that would be, if they wanted to look at what it looks like, they can go to durablehuman.com/confidence kickstart. And I'm really excited to be able to share some of the things we've been talking about in a bit of a more organized way. And I have stuff like, a sensory observation worksheet. I have some things to do offline too. So where you watch your baby, this is for new parents. Can you see when they're seeing? Can you see when they're hearing? So you really observe them and see what beautiful sensory creatures they are. And so you slow down and start to understand, how you can observe as a parent. And because you got to keep observing, as you know, all the way through high school. You got to keep your eyes open because you're going to miss those vital cues from your kid. They don't
Mm-hmm.
tell you, they don't necessarily verbally tell you. So you
Yeah.
have to keep your eyes on them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, this has been so great. I'm re-inspired once again. I've always been for a long time. My phone is charged far, far away from me, but even I struggle and go through phases where I'm like, what am I doing on this, again right now? So I think it's just something that we all need to learn, adults and children alike. And, even if our brains are developed, I feel like I think about older people getting all these dementias and how we need to keep this kind of stimulating 3D full experience going all through our lifespan, don't you think?
Absolutely. And in fact, in my book, How to Be a Durable Human, there's a section on GPS and people's hippocampuses, which is their spatial recognition and their mapping part of their brain is shrinking. We've seen it in London with the cab drivers. They're be able to rely on GPS more, and their hippocampi are shrinking. So I recommend, if you use the GPS one way to get there, on the way back, try to look for those landmarks, or be more observant when you're driving too, so you can try to at least drive back without using a GPS.
Oh gosh, I was like bad before phones with directions, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'll try.
Well, maybe to the grocery store. Try with the grocery store.
Oh, I can get yeah, those places. But oh my gosh, that's so good. Well, thank you so much for being on again, Jenifer. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope lots of parents discover your work and just work on growing their child's bushy broccoli brains.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity, Audrey, and good luck this summer with camp.
Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. As always, the show notes and links that we talked about from this episode will be on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. If you're a new listener and you're interested in the topics I cover, please take a moment to subscribe to my weekly email, which I send out every Wednesday, and I include my most recent podcast episodes and blog posts, as well as links to articles and other information that I've found to be good resources in my parenting. I'm having so much fun connecting with camp directors from all across the United States in my Camp Director interview series called Happy Campers Interviews. We're talking about the social and emotional growth, as well as the character traits and life skills that kids gain at summer camp. To see the full schedule of interviews with links to the camp websites, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com and click on the Happy Campers Interviews link. If you're a regular listener and you enjoy the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, I would really appreciate it if you'd take just a few minutes to give me a rating and a review on iTunes. I appreciate this review from Miss Kelly. I'm really enjoying the topics covered in Audrey's podcasts. This recent one about teens and camp provides loads of info on the benefits of camp for teens and gives great relatable examples. Easy to listen to with a clear and concise message for parents, teachers, and teens. I'll end this episode with a quote from Jenifer Joy Madden from her website, durablehuman.com. I'm delighted as everyone with our digital tools' amazing abilities, but I wonder what's happening to our own. It seems we forget the powers that we humans have that our machines don't. Our senses, especially, go way beyond our ability to see, hear, and smell. We're ingenious, creative, and intuitive. We feel wonder, love, caring, and compassion.
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.